Judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being with us here today. I want to start out with the depth of gratitude that the state of Texas has for the men and women who have been working tirelessly to try to address this growing challenge over the past few days. I want to, in particular, thank our working partners in the Texas legislature who represent this area, Senator Watson and Representative Serrier. I want to thank our Adjutant General, General Nichols, for being here. I want to thank my right-hand man who is involved in every challenge we have in the state of Texas, and that is the Texas Director of Emergency Management, Nim Kidd. I want to thank, in particular, our working partners here in the Bastrop area, which includes Judge Poppy, includes your sheriff, it includes so many people at the local level, including County Commissioner Precinct 2, Clara Beckett. We also thank Director Tom Bogus with the Texas A&M Forest Service. Mike Fisher, the Bastrop County Emergency Management Coordinator, of course Carter Smith, the Executive Director for Texas Parks and Wildlife, and the list could go on and on. Here's the reality of what these individuals have been doing. They have been stepping up, working around the clock to try to contain this fire. They've been dealing with challenges and shifting winds that have caused it to go in different directions. And they have a singular goal, and that is to try to eliminate this fire as quickly as possible to reduce the extent of damages. I want to thank them, but at the same time, thank all of the first responders who are putting their lives on the line minute by minute out there, working to both save the lives and the property of others. There are so many volunteers who are involved in this process, who are ensuring aid to those who are displaced because of the fire, aid to those who are working to respond to the fire. In typical Texas fashion, the volunteers and the entire community are coming together to support their fellow Texans. We grieve for the families and the homeowners who are displaced by this. This has to be an echo of a nightmare that they faced just a few years ago. Anyone who travels down just Highway 71 can see the charred remains of trees that were burned in the last fire, now only to see another fire arise. And I understand that members of the community may be concerned about it. And we want them to know that the state of Texas officials with different state agencies, as well as here in Bastrop County, are working tirelessly to try to contain any type of damage, to protect the citizens, the community, as much as possible. One thing that I want to announce, or several things that I want to announce today. One is that because of the challenges in containing this, because of the shifting winds, because of weather conditions being the way they are, and because of the necessity that we contain this as quickly as possible, we are adding more resources as we speak. The Texas military operations are adding 2 more Blackhawk helicopters as well as 2 more Chinooks today to ensure that we are able to respond more effectively to this. We are also benefiting and very, very thankful to FEMA. We made a request to FEMA for a fire management assistance grant that was immediately approved, and I want to personally thank FEMA for its quick and effective response in aiding Texas as we meet this challenge. I also want to announce that today I am declaring a state of disaster for Bastrop County. The last thing that I want to emphasize, and this could not be emphasized enough, and that is, so far we have been very fortunate in this fire in that no person has lost their life. We want to conclude this fire by being able to say the same thing. The people behind me, as well as other people who are out battling the fire as we speak, are working to ensure there is no loss of life. However, I would suggest that the people who are best able to prevent any loss of life are the people who are in the line of these fires. And so I am trying to send in the strongest way I can a message to everyone anywhere near this area to, number one, stay out of harm's way. Number two, listen to local law enforcement. Whenever they issue a warning for evacuation, please heed that warning. If you're warned to evacuate and you do not evacuate, you are placing your lives in danger. And that's a danger that's just not worth taking the risk on. If you evacuate, just know that there are people there who are going to be able to help you and support you during your time of evacuation, and also know that local law enforcement will get you back to your home as quickly as possible. And also, I want to help everyone across the entire state of Texas understand and heed this same warning. We're here in the Bastrop area today, but as we gather here this morning, there are other fires across the state of Texas. And with weather conditions being what they may become over the next few days, as people may be out having picnics or doing other things over the course of the weekend, a fire can erupt anytime, anywhere. Across the entire state of Texas, I am asking everyone who may be near a fire to please listen to and heed warnings issued by local law enforcement officials to be sure that you evacuate if law enforcement officials ask you to do so. And then lastly, let me just say this, and that is a plea to my fellow Texans to keep in your hearts and your minds and your prayers those who have been affected by this. As you go to bed tonight, saying your prayers, say a prayer in support of those who don't have a bed to go to tonight. And let's come together as a family, as fellow Texans, and support those who may have lost any property because of these fires. With that, I am going to pass it over to the County Judge, Poppy.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. I'll say just a comment or two. Thank you, Governors, for your heartfelt and genuine concern for Bastrop County and for our citizens. You know, this is not our first rodeo. We've been through this before. And we have found in the state of Texas, all the way from the governor's office right down to every state agency, to our elected representatives, true partners as we fight these natural disasters. And to have Governor Abbott here today speaking in such genuine terms is a great comfort to the citizens of Bastrop County. And on behalf of them, I thank you for being here today, Governor.
Thank you, Judge. And
God bless you and your service to the state of Texas. I will echo this as the Governor has mentioned. The real heroes today are not in this audience, and they're not standing in front of you. The real heroes are the men and women who are out there on the fire line as we speak, putting their life in danger way to protect the lives and properties of the citizens of Bastrop. And let's keep them in our hearts and prayers as well, because they're the ones who are fighting the battle on our behalf. The state has been very resourceful in providing air support, and we're going to see some additional air support today. Very thankful for that. But the fact is that these kinds of fires are won and lost on the ground, on the battle line. And that's where our heroes are at this very moment. I can't say enough to thank them for their service. We are grateful for the opportunity to be a partner with the state of Texas and with all the resources that have been made available to us, that have been brought to to bear on this fire. We will continue to fight it with all we've got, and there will be victory. It may be a day or two, or it may be longer depending on the weather, but we will win this battle, and we will help our folks, our citizens, restore their lives and get back to living their daily lives. We've done this before. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. It just takes time. And I thank you for your coverage, and I hope that you'll share the message that the governor gave this morning about asking all citizens to respect local authorities. We're just here to help keep them safe and to restore peace and order in our communities. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Governor.
Thank you, Judge.
Now, I guess you'll have some questions. We'd like to entertain questions if anyone. And Mr. Kidd, would you be willing to be the moderator for the questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
What's the latest in terms of acres burned, houses destroyed, houses in danger?
Let me address that. We don't want to use this opportunity to be too specific about the fire. With the governor here, I want us to talk about policy issues and bigger issues. We do have a helicopter up right now with the GPS system in it, tracking the new perimeter of the fire. We'll have a report afternoon with that new information. But today I think the focus here ought to be on what the state of Texas and all of these state agencies are doing to help fight this disaster.
How much was that FEMA grant?
The way the FEMA grant works is it's a reimbursement back to local governments and state agencies depending on the cost that we spend. For Category A debris and B emergency protective measures, it's up to 75% of the expenses for this fire.
Do we know how much is available on a local and state level?
Well, the way you're asking the question doesn't have an exact answer. It's what we spend, and then 75% of that will come back.
How much?
Can I put this in perspective compared to 2011?
You can step up here if you want.
Could you put this in perspective compared to 2011 when we saw that?
Well, I think the big difference is the winds right now. So fuels are about as dry, maybe not quite as dry. The atmospheric conditions, relative humidity are about in the same, but the big difference is we had 50-mile-an-hour winds back then. If we get to that point again today, and that's why it's so important of what the governor said and what the judge said, we've got to have the community. You have to help us with that message. We've got to have the community listening to stay out of the way so that we can save lives.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about other resources being called in, other departments? I know I was with the Austin Fire Department this morning. They wish they could have gone 2 days ago, but had to wait for that request. Who made that request? How does that work? And was it done soon enough?
Yep, so great question. Requests are considered here in what's called a unified command. Local officials, the emergency manager, state officials working together, and resource timing is very important. If you put too many aircraft in the air, too many firefighters on the ground that aren't following the chain of command, that aren't on a structure, you create additional unsafe acts. And so it's about the timing of getting the resources in at the same time. And we're seeing firefighters from not only across the state, but tomorrow you will see national incident management teams come in, as well as the state of Florida and the state of Georgia have committed dozer resources. This fire has national attention at this point, and you'll see additional resources come in. But the timing of when they come in, what they do, who they're talking to, where they go, and when they go back is critical not only to their safety, but the successful extinguishment of the fire.
Do we have a total number of workers on the ground right now?
We'll get those numbers and share them with you, but as soon as I print it, it's going to change. So we'll use big round numbers and keep moving because this is a very dynamic scene right now. Something else that I want to add, places that appear safe right now, the people that we've let go back, that the judges and the sheriff have allowed to go back, they cannot turn their back on this fire. Wind conditions could change again. They have to constantly monitor local media to get the latest information, and the reverse 911 systems are very important to us.
How many people are in shelters right now?
That number changes up or down because overnight you have people that stay that go out. We have shelters that are open and there's capacity in the shelters. So if people don't have a place to go, we encourage them to go to the shelters that are open.
What was the number last night?
Mike, do you know the number last night?
There were about 50 sheltered last night, but I will say this, that as soon as an area is cleared and safe, we're allowing people to go back into their homes. We're evacuating the ones that might be in the path of danger, but as soon as that danger goes away, we're allowing them to go back. So that number fluxes all the time. About 50 people reported in last night. Many of them were housed in local motels through vouchers. I think a dozen or so actually spent the night in the recreation center in Smithville last night. But that resource will continue to be available because we want people to have a place to go and get out of harm's way.
What's the communication been like with residents? I think there's been some, I know some residents have been frustrated, maybe not understanding when they can go back. They're being told they can, but then being stopped. I mean, what's that process
Yeah, actually, social media is a wonderful resource these days. It's a new way of communicating, and both our emergency management office has a social media page and our sheriff's department. And if people will pay attention to those resources, they will get the earliest, quickest information available to them for reentry purposes.
So we saw there was 2 Blackhawks working yesterday, so that means a total of 4 now?
And you might not see all 4 in the air at the same time or on this fire because, as we've talked about, there are other fires that'll be burning, but those are dedicated to fire protection for the state of Texas. Two of them here.
How many total shipments?
Two at the moment. If we need more, we'll grab more.
Is it likely this fire's going to get bigger today?
I think you need to prepare for that.
Why is this fire? I mean, the governor alluded to other fires across the state. We've had others in Bastrop County. What is so challenging about this particular fire?
I think it's the topography. I don't know, Carter or Tom, you want to talk about the trees, the landscape, the dryness here? We have other fires, big fires burning other places, not necessarily with as much population as around them.
Governor,
a lot of
can
work
you
done.
comment about the education commissioner deciding to resign?
Why don't we address that for another day? Well, let's talk about the fire today.
There was a lot of mitigation work done during the summer in this area. Have we seen that that's been working, and would you recommend that more of that, more resources could be used?
Very glad you asked that question. I want the governor to address it in relation to the big picture, and then I'll be more specific with this.
Ask it again.
So over the summer, there was $4 million work done on mitigation in this area. Are we seeing that that's working, and is that proof enough to say maybe the state should dedicate more resources to that fire mitigation?
We are seeing that it's working. Interestingly, this very topic came up in our briefing that we had right before now, and Senator Watson in particular was talking about the way in which those mitigation efforts and those expenditures were able to save money. So the return on investment has already been achieved, and it shows a smart, proactive approach in being able to deal with these problems that reduce the eventual cost.
So we're going to think that there'll be more resources in the future?
It certainly stimulates the conversation for strategic use of resources like that in the future.
And I want to add that we live in an urban interface with this forest. Beautiful place to live, but as we can see, when things go bad, they go bad quickly and severely. So to take the responsibility of doing fuel mitigation work is the only way that we can move forward in the future. I want Senator Watson to say a few words about this because he was very resourceful in helping Bastrop County achieve a $1 million grant from the state, which we used to match $3 million from FEMA, and that's the $4 million program that you're talking about. In addition to that, the Science Park has initiated their own fuel mitigation program, and we have evidence in this fire that work saved infrastructure, saved buildings, saved priceless research at the Science Park. By the way, that's one of the choppers loading their bucket now. So we may just have to pause for a minute and let them fly over. Sure.
Good picture right there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sight. I'll just say that that's a beautiful sight for us here in Bastrop County to see that air support.
Two of them.
Oh, wow.
Both of them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that is wonderful. All I'll do is highlight what the judge and the governor have said. I guess it was 2 sessions ago, we worked very closely with the governor's office at that time to get the $1 million grant. We were working day to day with Bastrop County. Huh?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
That sounds better than my voice.
Governor, good. Look right in here. This is going to be a beautiful sight here for you.
That's how it works right there.
That's how it works. Let them see all 4 of them out here. That's beautiful. Thank you and God for that.
I'll do this. We're heading this way. All right.
Say again? There you go. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, General. Yeah.
Governor, it's not as nice a day as when we were listening to Kevin McFowler the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again also. Thank you.